I went to Cuba thinking I was going to experience that classic package: stylish old cars, good music playing everywhere, boxing training, drinking rum, and maybe meeting a beautiful Cuban woman along the way, right? Then I get there, and reality hits me in the face. Trash on the street, buildings falling apart, people who haven't seen protein in days. And you walk around with the real feeling that any balcony might just decide to fall right on your head. But hold on, because Cuba is an expert at surprising you. In the midst of all this chaos, a Cuban woman appears. She wasn't exactly as I imagined, right? But she was friendly, bold, and very direct even. 5 minutes into the conversation and she says, "Let's go to my place." To do what? Well, exactly what you're thinking right now, you naughty one. But the detail of how this really works over there, I'll only tell at the end of the video. Okay? 1. Eating is not routine. When you arrive in Cuba, you think the day starts with sun, music, and a strong, beautiful, poetic, touristy coffee. But no, the day here starts with a much more basic, almost primitive question. Is there food today? And it's not a figure of speech. It's literal. You wake up and quickly realize that no one talks about plans. There is no, "What are you going to do today?" The conversation always revolves around the same thing. If rice appeared somewhere, if they say eggs arrived over there, if someone heard that they are selling something on such and such street. In Cuba, food is not routine. It's a hunt. The Cuban goes out early to the street, not in a hurry to work, but with a bag in hand. A nylon bag, an old acquaintance, almost a national uniform. You walk through the streets and see the scene repeating. People standing still, watching, waiting, as if food could simply appear out of nowhere. Sometimes it does, but when it does, another question arises. Can we afford it? Then the second round begins. I went to Avenida Italia, or Galliano, as everyone calls it, a weekend market that became the city's big plan B. There's everything. Food, clothes, utensils, hope, all mixed together. Months ago, this was seen as a way out. Today, it has become just another place where you look, calculate, and realize that the numbers never add up. Let's look at the numbers, because without them, this is just drama. A pound of onions costs about 400 Cuban pesos. Tomatoes, 600 per pound. And we are not talking about imported, gourmet, or exotic products. It's food harvested from the land itself. Now take a deep breath. A kilogram of beef in the informal market is around 1,000 Cuban pesos. Translating to real life, many people work the whole month to choose between eating meat or paying for another basic necessity. The inevitable question is meat a luxury or food? In Cuba, the answer is simple. Meat has become an item for special occasions. Christmas, New Year, if you're lucky. It is estimated that only about 30% of the population can eat meat with some frequency. The rest manage as they can, and manage here is a heavy verb. Solving by substituting is improvising, reducing portions, skipping meals. Some people perform daily magic with rice, beans, and imagination, because here, it's not about what you want to eat, it's about what showed up today. And if nothing showed up, well, try again tomorrow. You quickly understand that in Cuba, no one lives with food security. They live with expectation. Expectation of finding something, of being able to pay, of not returning home with an empty bag. And when you return empty-handed, no one makes a fuss, because that's become normal. Here, sad. Yes, but the most frightening thing is not the hunger. It's how much it has already been incorporated into the routine. Here, you don't live to work. You work when you can, to eat. And sometimes, not even that. 2. The math doesn't add up. After understanding that food is the center of life in Cuba, comes the second shock, the low blow, the math. Because here, the problem is not just that the price is high, it's that the salary simply doesn't exist to keep up with reality. The average state salary is around $25 per month. Repeat that in your head. Now compare it with anywhere else in the world. And then I ask you, with no irony, how does someone live on that? The short answer is simple. They don't live, they survive. Because food costs the price of a normal country. Tomato, onion, rice, oil, none of this is cheap for someone earning $25. So the math becomes a cruel joke. You do the math, redo it, check it, change the order, and in the end, it always gives the same result. It doesn't add up. Here, no one thinks about how much is left. The reasoning is different. What do I not buy today? Every purchase is a forced choice. If you buy this, you don't buy that. If you eat better today, you'll struggle tomorrow. There is no relief, only compensation. And it's at this point that Cuba is practically divided into three types of people. First, those who receive remittances from abroad. These people are not rich, but they can breathe. Money that comes from outside changes everything. It's not luxury, it's basic dignity. Chicken, oil, eggs, sometimes meat. Second, those who have contacts abroad. A friend, a relative, someone who brings things, sends things, helps to solve. The famous, I know someone. It doesn't solve everything, but it avoids collapse. And third, those who resolve outside the system. Sell something, resell something, trade something, improvise. Here, resolving is not romantic cunning, it's pure necessity. Those who live only on the state salary live on the edge and know it. The most absurd thing is that food exists in Cuba. It is in private stores, in MSMEs, in foreign currency stores. The problem is that it is not in the pocket of the majority, meaning it is not a lack of food, but a lack of access. And then a phrase is born that every Cuban understands without needing explanation. Here you don't live to work, you work to eat. And sometimes, not even that. Because when the salary doesn't keep up with inflation, there is no future, no plan, no rest. There is only the month. Getting through the month becomes a victory. And when someone says this month made it, it doesn't mean there was extra, it just means it didn't run out before the end. This alone explains more about Cuba than any political speech. 3. Two Cubas. After a few days walking around Cuba, you start to notice something curious and somewhat absurd. There are two Cubas, and it's not a figure of speech, it's literal. The first is the tourist's Cuba. Beautiful beaches, loud music, cheap rum, people smiling as if life is all sorted out. This Cuba works. It has electricity, food, air conditioning. It's the Instagram Cuba, with a warm filter and motivational caption. Now let me ask you a simple question. What happens if you step out of this scene for 5 minutes on foot? 5. The music fades, the lights go out, the smile turns to fatigue. Welcome to the other Cuba. It's the Cuba where the day doesn't start with good morning. It starts with, will there be electricity today? And is there any food? While the tourist chooses a dish from the menu, the Cuban chooses what will be missing today. And the strangest part is that these two Cubas are not in different countries. They are on the same street. Hotel with air conditioning running all day. Just behind, houses waiting for the power to return so they can cook. Coincidence? Of course not. It's a priority. The tourist area cannot stop. The rest will sort itself out. And sorting things out here has nothing to do with Latin charm. It's pure survival. Solving food, solving transportation, solving money. No one talks about quality of life. Here, it sounds like a bad joke. The questions of the day are different. Is it enough for today? Will it last until tomorrow? If I buy this, what will I go without? The tourist comes to rest. The Cuban wakes up tired. The tourist takes a vacation. The Cuban takes stock. And the most frightening thing is that all this has become normal. You ask, how's the situation? And the answer comes with a half smile. It's tough, but we're getting by. Getting by to where? Nobody knows. Because while the world looks at Cuba and thinks, what a joyful people, the Cuban looks at the world and thinks, it could be different, right? They see it on the internet, see it through relatives who have left, see it through the remittances that arrive. And that hurts more than not knowing. That's why so many people dream of leaving. It's not to get rich. It's to stop calculating everything. Stop calculating food, electricity, month. Is Cuba beautiful? Yes, but it's beautiful on two different levels. One you visit, the other you endure. And once you realize this, it's hard to look at that postcard the same way. 4. Resolve, the national verb. If you spend a few days in Cuba, you quickly learn a new word. It's not in the tourist guide. It's not in the Spanish course. No one formally teaches you. You learn it in practice. The word is resolve. And the natural question is, resolve what? The answer is simple. Everything. Here, no one buys like in a normal country. Buying assumes stable supply, predictable price, compatible salary. Here, that doesn't exist. Here, you resolve. Solve food. Solve transportation. Solve money. Solve even problems that shouldn't exist. You walk through the streets and start noticing the signs. People sitting at the door selling rice in plastic cups, beans in unbranded bags, deodorant, toothpaste, soap set up like an improvised market. It's not illegal out of malice, it's illegal out of necessity. When the system doesn't provide the basics start circulating outside the system. The question is simple. What would you do if you had nowhere to buy the essentials? Would you wait or solve it? Well, transportation can also be solved. Crowded bus, solve it with a truck. Yes, truck. People standing, sitting, hanging, squeezed, all absolutely normal. The price is around $2. Cheap for those who earn in dollars, expensive for those who earn in Cuban pesos. But still, that's it. Or walk kilometers in the heat. Solving becomes routine. Solving becomes a skill. Solving becomes identity. Here, no one introduces themselves by their profession. A person introduces themselves by saying, even without speaking, I manage. And managing in Cuba requires creativity at a postdoctorate level. Some people sell what they have. Some sell what they find. Some sell things that, once washed, are like new. And nobody asks too many questions, because asking too much disrupts the process. The most curious thing is that all this happens in broad daylight. It's not an underworld. It's not hidden. It's the real economy, operating in parallel. You quickly realize that getting by is not the exception. It's the rule. And those who can't manage get left behind. That's when things get tough. Because when everything turns into improvisation, the line between surviving and taking risks becomes thin, very thin. The smile continues, the music continues, but something starts to tense up because constantly having to solve things is tiring. It is mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausting. And when this fatigue accumulates, the city feels it. That's when the blackouts happen. Buildings collapse, garbage piles up, not as an exception, but as a consequence. And that's exactly what I started to see when I went deeper, off the tourist path. But that's what we're going to see now. Hey, pause this real quick. Send this video to the friend who's going to Cuba with you. Then come back and tell me, did he like the invitation I received? Or in my place would he go? 5. When everything starts to fall apart. After walking a bit further from the tourist areas, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. Cuba is not just tired. It is falling apart. And it's not a pretty metaphor, no. It's concrete truly cracking. You start passing by buildings propped up with wood, crooked walls, balconies that seem to exist only out of stubbornness. Here, a collapse doesn't become news. It becomes part of the landscape. Buildings officially declared uninhabitable still have people living inside. And then the obvious question is, where will they live? There is no plan B. Renting is impossible. Buying a house is out of the question. So people stay, sleep, knowing the roof might fall, wake up hoping it doesn't rain too hard. In some places, there are still signs warning of collapse danger. In others, not even that. Everyone already knows, and as if that weren't enough, there's the trash, a lot of trash. Not the one hidden behind a hotel so tourists don't see it. Trash on the corner, accumulated trash, trash that stays there for days, coexisting with people who already have too many problems to solve. Curiously, look at that. This doesn't appear in tourist areas. There, the trash disappears quickly. Coincidence? Of course not. Then comes another question. How does a city function without electricity? Because here, blackouts have become routine. 5-6 hours without power, every single day. Refrigerator off, food spoiling, fans stopped in that unforgiving Caribbean heat. And the strangest thing is hearing this being said naturally. Today the power goes out at 3, as if it were a weather forecast. Without electricity, you can't cook. Without gas, even worse. Without water, good luck. The city enters a strange mode. Everything becomes slower, heavier, and when night falls, the atmosphere changes. Darker streets, fewer people walking, more tension in the air. Crime starts to appear more, not out of gratuitous malice, but out of necessity. Assaults, robberies, paths, people avoid at night. It's not a movie, it's a consequence. When everything is lacking, even confidence goes away, and yet life goes on. The next day, everyone wakes up, grabs their bag, and goes to solve what they can. Because here, stopping is not an option. The city may be falling apart, but those who live in it are still standing, tired, exhausted, but standing. The more I walked, the clearer it became that this is not a temporary crisis. It's accumulated wear, and wear takes its toll on the city, on the body, and especially on the choices people start to make. And that's exactly what we need to talk about now. 6. When does love get tired? After seeing the city wearing down, one thing becomes clear quickly. The crisis doesn't stay just on the street. It enters homes and barges into relationships. So, let me ask you, without romanticizing anything, how does love survive when there's no food? Here, a relationship doesn't live isolated from reality. It gets hit by it every day. I heard this from many people, without drama, almost automatically. A couple arguing not out of jealousy, but over money. A discussion not about feelings, but about what can be bought this month. A phrase I heard sums it all up. Here, Love doesn't end due to a lack of affection, it ends due to a lack of means. When the salary isn't enough and the month becomes a minefield, affection starts to compete with survival. And then the logic changes. Many people start looking not just for someone to love, but for someone to help solve things. Solve food, solve money, solve going out. This applies to both men and women. There are couples who have been together for years who separate because the economy collapsed. There are marriages that simply cannot withstand the constant pressure. And there are people who give up, not because they stopped loving, but because they are tired of fighting every day without seeing a way out. Then the feelings start to mix. What is love? What is necessity? What is strategy? It's not always possible to separate them. I heard women saying, today, in Cuba, if a man doesn't have money, he's no good. Is it harsh? Yes, but it's real. Not because people have become cold, it's because the crisis hardens everyone. When everything is lacking, romance becomes a luxury. Dreaming becomes a risk. You still see affection, smiles, closeness, but always with a tension behind it. A silent question that no one says out loud. How long can this last? And then another weight comes in. The comparison with those who left. Those who stayed see those who left eating better, living better, breathing better. This corrodes from within. The dream stops being about building something here and simply becomes about leaving with someone or alone. And in this scenario, many people start crossing lines they never thought they would. Not out of malice, but out of exhaustion. This is where we start touching on a more uncomfortable subject, because when the need becomes too pressing, some choices stop being choices and become survival strategies. But this needs to be discussed calmly and, above all, without romanticizing. That's exactly what's coming now. 7. Surviving is a strategy. After hearing many stories, talking to many people, and truly walking around the city, one thing became clear to me. When the need becomes too pressing, choices change. This is not exclusive to Cuba. The difference is that here, it is blatant, impossible to pretend not to see. Now, think with me, without drama. What would you do if you didn't have money to eat, dress, or help your own family? Well, in Cuba, many people live exactly on that edge. And it is in this scenario that survival strategies emerge that confuse tourists, feed fantasies, and leave many people too comfortable to ask any questions. Those who come from outside often think everything is friendliness, easy smiles, human warmth. And it is, but not every smile is romance, not every attention is love. Sometimes it's necessity dressed as kindness. This is where a famous and often misunderstood term comes in, gineterismo. And let me make this clear right away. Not every Cuban woman is a ginetera. Generalizing this is lazy and unfair. But the phenomenon exists, and pretending it doesn't exist helps no one. Gineterismo is not just selling the body. Often it doesn't even involve that. It's companionship for interest, strategic affection, promise, hope of escape. Because for those who come from outside, a dinner is leisure. Here, it can be the week's food. A perfume for you is a detail. Here, it's a luxury. A cell phone recharge seems like nothing. Here, it solves the month. So, when you see a relationship that's too intense, too fast, too perfect, maybe it's not love at first sight. Maybe it's desperation at the first opportunity. And this goes for both sides, you know? There is also the tourist who arrives thinking they are special, that they have conquered, that they have changed someone's life. The uncomfortable question is simple. Did they really change it, or did they just enter a system that has worked this way for decades? When no one wants to see reality, neither those who need to survive nor those who prefer to live the fantasy, the result is always the same: frustration, lost money, and wrong judgment. And no, this does not turn everyone into a saint. Scams exist. Here, scams are not the exception, they are the consequence. Street scams, digital scams, and emotional scams. Promise of love, of help, of a better future. All wrapped with urgency and a sad story. Not because the Cuban is cunning, but because the system pushed too many people into permanent improvisation. The cruelest scam is the emotional one. You're outside of Cuba, alone. A nice profile appears, difficult story, good conversation. When you ask for a video call, there's always an excuse. That's when the emergencies start. Small at first, then bigger. You help thinking it's love. Often on the other side, it's not even a woman. It's just some guy using a stolen photo. Caribbean version of catfishing. In the end, the painful question is this: did you want love, or did you want to believe in a fantasy? Cuba is not a romantic movie, but it's also not a den of villains. It's a broken country, with people improvising their own lives every day. Those who come here need just one thing: open eyes. And not to distrust everyone, but to understand the context. Because here, romanticizing too much hurts, and ignoring reality comes at a high price. Hey, don't forget to share this stuff, okay? And if you've made it this far, comment Cuba and check out the video that's appearing on the screen. Thanks, and see you later.